Let's go to Alma calling in from Georgia, excuse me. Alma, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Thank you, sweetie. A couple of things. Since I was listening to the other thing, I want to say this now. My son is a CNA. He worked at
What's
a
that?
nursing home for
Certified nursing assistant.
$8 an hour. And worked his butt off. He got down to 113 pounds, so I pulled him out of there. I mean, he saw stuff that I tell him, I don't want to hear no more of it. But what I really called about was I called my radio station today and said they better not take y'all off of my station.
Thank you.
Because you are the last station I have on this radio station.
The last show?
They pulled everybody else off but the government speakers.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do if I lose y'all.
Well, if you and other folks continue to call the stations, Free Talk Live makes it easy for radio stations, Alma. I do appreciate the call. And that
I called him. And he finally goes, I got to go to supper. So I know he's a Southerner, so I can deal with a Southerner. Right quick.
You know, we're from Florida, so yeah, it's a funny thing.
My husband's from Florida, but his mama's from Maine, and I call him a Yankee, and he wants to hit me all the time because I call him a Yankee.
You know, being from Georgia, somebody who's born from Floridians and Mainers, yeah, they are a Yankee.
Everybody in Florida is a Yankee.
That's what I'm saying. I call it Yankee-occupied territory within 20 miles of the coast in Florida.
You got it.
Indeed. Alma, thank you for the call. 855-450-FREE. So what is it about Southerners? Explain to me, Johnson. You moved to Florida from Connecticut. Southerners, they're rigorously tribalistic about sort of what's Southern, what's not Southern. And it has to.
Florida's not Southern.
It has to have something to do with that Confederate war.
Unless maybe
but
if you're
I feel
in the
like
Panhandle.
a Southerner.
Well, you're not.
Not by many Southerner standards.
You could maybe pass for being a Southerner if you're
Too
like
far
Jacksonville or North, maybe.
Well, or the center of the state. I mean, if you're from Bartow, son, you're Southern.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're out in like the swampland, then you kind of count too. You know, if you're.
I've hunted alligators with my bare hands, and what do I got to do to be Southern?
Really?
Yes.
When did you do that?
Prison. We were in the. You know this is a good story now.
Yeah. Now I'm intrigued.
I worked at the nursery, which was outside of the work camp, and I'm not going to reveal names at this
nursery?
point. No, this is clearly they did not have convicts taking care of children.
Hey, I don't know.
I didn't.
It could be prison kids.
No, this is the growing flowers kind of thing.
Yeah.
We had an opportunity to sort of this large area that was kept by the convicts for the purpose of sort of growing flowers and beautifying and that sort of thing, and alligators would sometimes come into this lake area, and we kind of learned, hey, you can supplement your food diet here by doing a little hunting. So we'd catch the little lizards and we'd throw them out to the alligators, and the alligators would get used to this. These little snacks that we throw, and then you catch a little lizard and you hook him because you get a hook from somebody somewhere, and you have it on some string, and then you got yourself a gator. You bring him in and club him to death.
Well, this is like a little gator, I'm assuming.
4
Fairly
feet
little.
was the largest.
Okay.
Well, that's not that small.
It's not small, but it's not too big either.
It's not too big. You do not want to get bit by it.
Yeah, no. I've got a gator story of a gator that could have taken me out. I went to an art school, and there's like a river that goes near this school, and this is in Sarasota. And one of the classes that I took was like a 3D, like a sculpture kind of class, but it was like 3D design or something like that. And I'm out behind this 3D design studio, and I was building a sculpture out of like wire and cloth or something like that. And I'm just looking around, and I'm like, oh, and I thought that this was a sculpture. And I walk up on it, and I thought somebody had made a 3-dimensional sculpture of an alligator.
This would be a really great for it.
Because some of the sculptures at the school, some of the things that they were making are
really great art
really great art school. And some of the things that were there are fantastic. So I absolutely thought that this was a sculpture because it was way up on land. And I'm like thinking that, because there's all these other sculptures around. And I thought, wow, somebody did a really good job in this gator sculpture. And I'm like walking up to it, and I'm right up on it. Like my face is like, I'm face to face with this alligator.
You are inspecting this art.
Right. I'm expecting this art until the art blinks at me.
And that's when
And I'm like, whoa!
cramped
Like,
yourself.
I jump back. And somebody's like, cause it was a simultaneous kind of event where somebody's like, dude, that's not a sculpture, that's a real alligator. And it blinks at the same time that
Yeah.
person finishes their sentence. And me having the realization that, like, I'm standing face to face, and this was probably like a 6 or a 7 foot alligator. I mean, it was bigger than I was.
Good enough.
It was
Yeah.
definitely, and it was bigger than me, like, without the tail, you know, like, just the body and head of this thing was probably about my size, and then there's the tail. But I jumped back so fast, and the thing didn't move, but wow. I mean, it just sat, it was sunning itself. I mean, it was just sunny day out, and it was there, and it was
They're generally not going to do anything.
No.
They don't care for humans.
Nope.
Don't matter to them much at
No.
all. But this is what I tell the Yankees up here. You know how you feel about moose? That's how I feel about alligators. The way you feel about alligators, that's how I feel about moose.
Right.
I do not want to meet one of these creatures in the woods. I want nothing to do with them. And they are actually mean. You know,
Yeah.
they actually will
The
do something
moose.
to you.
Right, yeah.
An alligator generally isn't going to do to anything to a full-grown human or even something close to a full-grown human. Your dog or your kid,
yeah.
you ought to watch out. But now, crocodile, that's an entirely different story. That's one of God's most evil creatures. You don't want to be anywhere near that thing when it decides that it wants to go after something. But yeah, alligators, not that big of a deal.
Right.
As long as you're not messing with
Big
them.
floating logs.
So Johnson, I'm willing to say that places like Sarasota and West Palm Beach and Miami and these kind of things, you know, Miami has a completely different sort of Caribbean flavor, but let's exclude Miami. But places along the western and eastern coasts of Florida are Yankee occupied territory. No problem. Now, however, having been born there, I'm aware of this, and I, say to myself, well, but I'm from here. Everybody else is from someplace else, but I'm from here. So I can say to myself, I'm Southern, even though everybody else isn't.
All I know is what I was told by people who are from the actual South, people who are from Georgia and North Carolina and South Carolina. They were like, Florida
more
is not even close to being Southern.
Yeah, but you can.
I'm sure it could just be, like state nationalism or whatever, state, like statism for their, little area and pride in our state. But,
taking pride in the fact that you were randomly born wherever you were born. But
right. Well, and obviously you are, but there are plenty of people in these places that'll say, "Oh, those Southerners aren't real Southerners. We represent what Southernism is." And all they're saying is that the culture is different, a little different there than it is elsewhere, and that's all true and fine. But I mean, ask yourself, like places that didn't secede but are south of the Mason-Dixon line. How about West Virginia? Is West Virginia Southern? It's south of the Mason-Dixon line, but did not secede during the Confederate, with the Confederates.
Well, and if you take the interstate right down,
and they sound Southern.
The second you drive into Virginia across the state line, there's a store with a giant Union, no, not a Union Jack, but a Confederate
Stars and
flag.
Bars, yeah.
Some store there. It's like a liquor store or something. You're like, wow, this is much farther north than I thought, but it's a very Southern vibe.
Many Southerners will display the 2nd Virginia battle flag as a sort of, saying that I'm from the South.
Right.
It's pride. But for me, I don't really, I don't believe in displaying it because it can make people feel bad. I think that, some people will view a Confederate flag and they'll say, there's a racist in that car.
Yeah.
I don't particularly want that put upon myself, although I think that the Confederate flag is, among flags, the most attractive of them. I wouldn't display it.
Right.
And I understand the sort of cultural thing that people feel there, but I think it's more the underdog situation.
Yeah,
like we lost, we were treated badly for decades, and the South will rise again. We're not sure what we're going to rise over, but we're going to rise. Like, what do Southerners have to be upset about these days?
I don't know. Oppressive humid weather.
Right.
Is the main thing that I hated when I lived in southern Georgia. But
usually the tax situation's better in the South.
Not bad.
If you look at the state of education in the South and the state of the economy in the South versus everywhere else in the country,
but that doesn't have anything to do with it doesn't have anything to do with the federal government.
No.
Most education financing comes through the state or comes through the local municipality. So if people don't want to, on a municipal or state level fund education, then who's to say? Alabama had an interesting idea. They went with the whole lottery thing like so many states did, but they saved they set aside the money for specifically college scholarships. That way, in Florida, they set the money aside for education, but really they're just moving money around because they'll remove as much money from the education budget as they put in from the lottery. So it's just pencil whipping the taxpayer, these suggestions. So
South is way too churchy as well.
Yeah, I think that some people would claim that, but there's nothing that still has nothing to do with the federal government.
Oh, no, I guess no.
The Midwest is probably worse than the South is.
That could be.
You're kind of you were born in Arkansas.
Northwest
you kind of have
corner.
All that mixed together with some weird cult that you were raised in, right, Pew?
That is correct. Yeah.
Arkansas is where they have religious tornadoes, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Tell us real quick, what's the name of the cult that you were raised in?
Worldwide Church of God is what it was called, and it was very popular in the 70s and 80s.
Interesting. Let's go real quick. Thomas calling in from West Virginia.
Hey.
Thomas, you're on Free Talk Live. West Virginia, north or south?
It's west.
Hello.
Hey, Thomas. West Virginia, north or south?
I'm from the southern part of West Virginia.
No, I'm asking you from is West Virginia north or south?
Oh, definitely south.
That's
so
what I'm
y'all
thinking.
consider yourself Southerners.
Well, when you go, the northern part of the state's a little different, but they're still southern.
Yep.
I think it depends. You're going to get a different answer from everybody. You know.
Yeah. Well, what I was really wanting to address was you're talking about the economy of the South, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, and how the federal government doesn't affect it. Well, with the present administration we have right now in the federal government, I don't need to say the president's name or anything. We all know.
45 seconds.
He has a war against coal, and coal is probably the biggest one of the biggest financial institutions of West Virginia.
In West Virginia. That's an accurate statement.
Of West Virginia. In West Virginia.
We need better technology to handle particulate matter and the burning of coal. Thomas, thank you for the call. I think that Thomas did point out something that
we need nuclear power, right? That's what I got.
Nuclear.
That's what I said. Nuclear.
Check us out in the meantime at freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.